സംഘടിപ്പിച്ചിരിക്കുന്ന മൾട്ടി ഡിസിപ്ലിനറി വെബിനാർ സീരീസിന്റെ ഭാഗമായുള്ള 27ാമത് പ്രഭാഷണമാണ് ഇന്ന് നടക്കുന്നത്. നിരവധി വിഷയങ്ങളെ കുറിച്ച് വൈജ്ഞാനിക പ്രഭാഷണങ്ങൾ ആണ് ഇതുവരെ നടന്നു വന്നിട്ടുള്ളത്. ഈ അവസരത്തിലും നമ്മൾ ഇന്ന് പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്നത് ഏറ്റവും പുതിയ ഒരു വിജ്ഞാന ശാഖയായ അക്വാകൾച്ചറുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട ഒരു പ്രഭാഷണമാണ്. ഈ വെബിനാറിന് നമ്മളോടൊപ്പം ഇവിടെ എത്തിയിട്ടുള്ളത് ഡോക്ടർ ബി സന്തോഷാണ്, പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ സയന്റിസ്റ്റ്, വിഴിഞ്ഞം. അദ്ദേഹത്തെ ഏറെ ആഹ്ലാദത്തോടെയും സന്തോഷത്തോടെയും ഞാൻ കൊല്ലം ശ്രീനാരായണ കോളേജിലേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുകയാണ്. നമുക്കറിയാം, ഈ അക്വാകൾച്ചർ മേഖലയിലും ഓർണമെന്റൽ ഫിഷിലും എല്ലാം തന്നെ ഒരു 3-4 പ്രഭാഷണങ്ങൾ ഇതുവരെ നടന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. വളരെ വലിയ സപ്പോർട്ടാണ് ഇത്തരത്തിലുള്ള പ്രഭാഷണങ്ങൾക്ക് കിട്ടിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഒന്നാമത് അക്വാകൾച്ചറിലേക്കും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഓർണമെന്റൽ ഫിഷ് വളർത്തലിലേക്കും എല്ലാം ആളുകൾ പ്രത്യേകിച്ചും ഈ ലോക്ക്ഡൗൺ പീരീഡിൽ വലിയ താല്പര്യത്തോടെയാണ് ഇത്തരത്തിലുള്ള പ്രഭാഷണങ്ങൾ ഏറ്റെടുത്തിട്ടുള്ളത്. അപ്പൊ ഈ ലൈഫ് ഫീൽഡ്സിനെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് ഉള്ള ഏറ്റവും പുതിയ അറിവ് നമുക്ക് പകർന്നു തരാൻ ഈ പ്രഭാഷണത്തിന് കഴിയും എന്ന് ഞാൻ വിചാരിക്കുകയാണ്. അപ്പോ ഈസ്റ്റും ബാക്ടീരിയയും മൈക്രോ ആൽഗയും എല്ലാം അടങ്ങിയിട്ടുള്ള ഈ ഫീഡ്സിനെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് സാർ വിശദമായി സംസാരിക്കുകയും നമ്മളത് കൗതുകത്തോടെ കേൾക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു. എത്രയും വേഗം ആ പ്രഭാഷണത്തിലേക്ക് കടക്കണം എന്ന് തന്നെയാണ് ഞാനും ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നത്. സാറിനെ ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ വാക്കുകൾ അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുന്നു. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.
Thank you, Sunil Kumar sir. With great pleasure, I am introducing today's speaker, Dr. B. Santosh. Currently, Dr. Santosh is working as Principal Scientist in Mariculture Division at Vizhinjam Regional Center of ICAR CMFRI Central Marine Fishery Research Institute, Kerala. He has a total 22 years of service as Scientist, Agricultural Research Service ARS at the Indian Council of Agricultural Research ICAR, Government of India, worked both in freshwater aquaculture and mariculture. His major research areas are aquaculture, live feed culture, aquatic biology, parasitology, cage culture, taxonomy of fish parasites and copepods, and fish health management. As principal investigator, Dr. Santosh has completed 4 institutional projects, and he also acted as co-principal investigator in another 15 projects. Dr. Santosh has 2 externally funded projects as principal investigator, and in another 15 projects he has associated as co-principal investigator. He has also collaborated with outside agencies as co-principal investigator in 10 projects and has consultancy in 4 projects. And the publication statistics: journal articles 34 numbers, books 2, bulletins 7, training manuals 15, books or manual chapters 70, leaflets 10, abstracts or presentations 120, and popular articles 35 numbers. Dr. Santosh has produced 2 PhDs and currently guiding 8 scholars. He has also conducted 35 training sessions. Dr. Santosh has bagged 14 Best Poster Paper Awards. He is a sub-editor of Indian Journal of Fisheries from January 2012. He has achieved Best Participant Award in the Summer School and Winter School. From 2009 onwards, he is a member of the State Review Committees formed by Government of Tripura 98 to 2009 and Government of Kerala, University of Kerala, and Department of Fisheries. In BFSc, MFSc, and PhD, he has teaching and supervising experience at the College of Fisheries, Central Agriculture University, Tripura, ICAR, SIFI, Mumbai, and University of Kerala. Dr. Santosh has made significant contributions in the areas of both freshwater and marine fish breeding and farming, integrated fish culture, ornamental fish breeding and culture, and farming system research. He has developed stock and mass production practices of 14 popular and important species of marine copepods for first larval feeding. Seed production has been standardized for 7 major food fishes and 2 ornamental fishes for the fish tank. Many new species of copypods and parasites were identified. More than 35 training programs were organized in different areas of aquaculture, freshwater and marine ornamental fish culture, mariculture, sea cage farming, live feed culture, and disease management. With great respect, welcome Dr. Santosh to our 27th talk of the Agora webinar series organized by Srinarayana College, Kollam. Over to Santosh, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Jisha. Thank you for your very elaborate introduction. And I express my sincere gratitude to Sunil Kumar sir, principal, for good words, and all the organizers of this function. Let me start my presentation. I think I'm audible to everybody.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. My today's topic, as you heard, it is about live feeds. I am working as a principal scientist in Vizhinjam Regional Center of CMFRI. This is our office. Actually, it is central. It's a branch of Central Marine Fish Research Institute, which has got two major wings. One, it is on capture fisheries and dynamics, and one is culture fisheries. In the culture fisheries, we are developing new techniques to breed many marine ornamental fishes and food fishes also. For all breeding programs, as you know, we need the food of their own choice. Actually, the food is two types mainly. One is artificial feed and a natural feed. For any organism, even human beings also, when a baby is born, it may not accept any other feed other than the mother's milk. Similarly, in fishes also, it is like that. When a baby is there, when the fish larvae is there, we have to provide the natural feed for the most of the cases. But in freshwater side, it is not that difficult. Most of the freshwater fishes has got very yolky eggs. So naturally, many fishes we can start directly feeding with the artificial feed. But in marine side, it is not like that, especially in if we are breeding for shellfishes and oysters, mussels, and ornamental fishes, and there are very prolonged larval stages, and they need live feeds. Live feeds are very important in that aspect. But unfortunately, this is a heterogeneous group, and I am talking something about too narrow and specialized area in the branch of zoology and aquaculture. And I'm sorry in that aspect, but somehow I'll try to make it more interesting for a wider population. And my area of specialization is still narrow into the marine side. That is another thing, but it's okay. Ornamental freshwater fishes live feed is very much important, and it is less developed when compared to marine side. In fact, because in freshwater side we have a lot of choice, and the fish larvae are comparatively bigger in size. But marine side, it is very small, and it is few micron only in size. So we need very specialized feed for marine side. So it is comparatively easy in freshwater. So people can breed all fishes, including ornamental fishes, comparatively in an easy way. But in marine side, it's not like that. In world over, only few species are standardized: salmon, trout, and other things, cobia. But India has achieved a very good leap in this aspect, and we are one of the important nation which is producing at maximum. It started producing maximum fish seeds in marine side also. We have very strong background of breeding, especially in CMFRA and SIBA. Both these institutes are engaged in breeding of saltwater fishes. And I told that about the types of feed, natural and artificial feeds. Artificial feeds, you all know, it is pellets. Pellets, we can see the pellets. It's in the figure. Different types of pellets are there. And other than that, it's dry pellets and semi-moist pellets, and we can prepare different.
Santosh Chetta, the presentation on, yeah.
On
Yeah.
Oh.
അത് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യുന്ന എങ്ങനെയാണ്?
അറിയാം, ഞങ്ങൾ
ഷെയർ ചെയ്തില്ലായിരുന്നു ഞാൻ. ഐ ആം സോറി. ഓക്കെ, ഞാൻ ഷെയർ ചെയ്തെന്ന് വിചാരിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞതാണ്. ഓക്കെ, സോറി.
Full screen, please.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. This is our institute. In fact, recent seconds. Okay. These are the pellet feeds. Dry pellets and semi-moist pellets are there, and it's very common and very easy to prepare and easy to use it. And very good companies are there supporting Skretting and Grovel, and many companies are there. We are getting all type of pellet feeds in India now. And among the fresh feeds, we can feed with the fresh fish, prawns, and mollusks. Generally, for bigger fishes, we are feeding with the fresh feeds, especially fishes and prawns and mollusks. But for the smaller fishes and fish larvae, we need live fishes, live feeds. Live feeds are mainly in marine sites. We have microalgae, unicellular algae, and rotifers, artemia, and copepods. These are the important live feeds in the marine sector. And basically, live feeds are the planktons. Planktons, in the sea, water, we can see some color in the water. But most of the times, we may not be able to see any living organism inside that. But the living organisms are responsible for that green color, brown color, red color in this water, whether it is fresh water or marine water. This is a very unique organism, starting from a very small unicellular organism up to multicellular. Even some fishes and jellyfishes all comes under this plankton group only. This plankton, it is very important feed. Actually, the plankton is the natural feed for many fishes and even mammals, blue whales and the baleen whales. They filter this plankton from the sea and eat. And this sardines, mackerel, and many bigger fishes also, they consume plankton directly. In most of the larval forms of marine organisms, even invertebrates, mollusks, everything they basically depend on plankton for their feed. So the plankton is the primary producer and secondary producer and the primary consumers. The two types of planktons are there. One is phytoplankton, that is plant origin, and another one is animal, zooplankton. Zooplankton form important food for most of the larvae, but phytoplankton is very much essential for feeding the zooplankton or making zooplankton. So both are important. And this is actually this is this is a larval stages of a damselfish. This is a newborn larvae, just one day old larvae. You can see it is very small, less than 1 millimeter in size, and the yolk sac is very less. But if you see the fish larvae, or goldfish larvae and carp larvae, we can see that a yolk is very much bigger, and it is very important. Then very next day, very second day or third day, the mouth will open and it will start feeding. It need its live feed for feeding. But in the carps and other fishes, means they take around 3 to 4 days to open their mouth and start feeding. And if they get around the 5th day or 6th day, any live feed, it will survive. But it is for damsel, grouper, snappers, and that kind of fishes. It is it will, mouth will open in the very next second day, and it need nutrient-rich feed in that particular day for feeding. Otherwise, the larvae won't survive more than 3 days. That's the biggest difficulty in the breeding of marine organisms. If you go for breeding of any organism, whether it is goldfish or even a freshwater fishes, breeding is comparatively easy. If you have conditioned male and female, and if you give condition or hormonal induction, actually the fish will breed. But for rearing larvae, it is very difficult. Those who try to do some aquarium breeding, and they can easily know what is the difficulty. The most difficult part of a hatchery is the fish larva rearing. Larva rearing is and especially the live feeds. The common live food organisms, in whether it is freshwater or marine, the basic thing is microalgae. Microalgae is unicellular algae. It is a plant origin, and mostly, and even some multicellular algae also can be used, but mostly small algae are being used for culturing. algal culture. And ciliates like Paramecium, Euplotus, these things also can be used as live feeds. And many microworms are there, vinegar eel and other worms which can be produced with the bread and milk. That people must be knowing, this aquarium people must be knowing, they are very much using that one. Infusoria is another group of organisms that is being cultivated for freshwater side. These ciliates and microworms and Infusoria, Daphnia and Moina, these things are mostly used in freshwater side, especially if the ornamental fish hatcheries, they are being used. This is Daphnia and Moina also. This somewhat similar Cladocyrus, which comes under Cladocyrus, comparatively bigger in size, 1 mm to 5 mm in size. And these are the freshwater side. And these red ones are mostly we use in marine side, especially rotifers. Rotifer is another minor phyla, and it's a group of organisms which is very ideal, but nutritionally comparatively poor. And Artemia is the only one live feed we can keep in dried form, just like a powder we can keep in whenever it is required. We can put it in water and it will be hatched, and we can produce it in the large scale and use it for feeding. So Artemia is the most popular live feed in that way. So because it can be kept in dried condition, and kept in dry condition for more than 2 years, we can keep it. And whenever it is required, we can cultivate it. But all other algae, but all other live feeds, we need an inoculum. We have to maintain that inoculum. From that, we have to make it in the large scale production systems, depending on your hatchery size side. Means how much your capacity is there. We have to invest much according to that one for making the live feeds also. Rotifers, Artemia, copepods. Copepods are comparatively a newer branch because some fishes, they may not be able to take any of this, because copepod larvae, it is very small, around 10, 20 microns onwards we will get different size, and very nutritionally better than all of this. So copepods are comparatively a newer branch. It is we have gone much advanced in that way. That is why we are able to make a good contribution in the fish breeding, marine fish breeding. And bloodworms, tubifex worms, and other worms also being cultivated for the freshwater side, especially from the ornamental group. In the carp hatcheries and all, generally they won't do for any large scale agriculture or this live feed culture in the tanks, but rather they can directly release their fingerlings to the pond. They make the pond, ready without remove all predators from there, and they fertilize the pond so that the natural algal production will be there. After that, very next week onwards, after 1 week of algal production, then naturally this Moina, rotifers, and this type of organism, I mean copepods also started coming up there. And after that, they will release the fish larvae directly into their carp hatchery, especially Katla, Rohu, Mriga. It is comparatively easy for larva rearing in that kind of. But especially if you go for some minor catfishes like Pabda. Pabda means Ombok bimaculatus and or that kind of minor organism, then you need to cultivate this rotifers and Artemia and even microalgae. But in marine sites, invariably we cannot leave that fish larvae for the mercy of nature. We have to do it in the hatchery level, at least minimum 20 to 30 days. We have to keep them in the hatchery, and the complete metamorphosis should be there. And in freshwater side, it is comparatively easy, very easy metamorphosis, and survival rate is also very high. In marine side, it is not like that. Metamorphosis is a difficult process, and several stages will be there with mass mortality and life-threatening problems will be there. The nutrition need to be taken care, and the environment need to be taken care. These things are important in the marine side. So the live feed culture has got much significance in the marine side than the freshwater side. And the live food organisms, I mean, in that very first thing, it's microalgae. Microalgae, different types of microalgae is there, diatoms and microalgae. Generally, we use it for the culture. And rotifers, these are rotifers. And Artemia, this is Artemia noplea, and this is copepods. These are the important things important live feed items we are using it. Microalgae is the primary producer even in the ocean and freshwater. Whatever in the food chain, it is the producer. That is consumed by the plankton, zooplankton, and zooplanktons are being eaten by small fishes, and small fishes are being eaten by the large fishes. And the entire marine production is mostly from the microalgae. We may not be knowing it, but millions of microalgae is there even in one handful of water. So that is the production, and some fishes we can feed directly on microalgae, but most of the fishes will feed directly on zooplanktons. So the live feeds are essentially phytoplankton or zooplankton. It is microalgae, the molluscan larvae, especially if we go for producing the oyster and mussel seeds. For that one, microalgae is very much important. They are filter feeding organisms, so naturally they feed mostly on microalgae. And larval stages of crustacean like prawns or lobsters, they also need microalgae for their food. And for fishes also, microalgae is important because we need to cultivate zooplankton by using this microalgae. And second thing, the microalgae has conditioning in the, especially in the larval rearing tanks. We need to have a very good quantity of microalgae so that the larval rearing tank will be conditioned. Otherwise, if we are releasing larvae to an empty a tank with the life zooplankton or feed, they will not survive because the ammonia content and the conditioning also is required. And the microalgae will make the tank, larval rearing tank condition in case of marine fishes. In that way, which is very much important there. And second thing, when we are adding live zooplankton, that also needs some feed. So the microalgae will act as a feed for that one. And another thing, that the fish larvae is very weak and its vision is very, very poor. So if it is algae, the light green color is there in the water, it can improve its vision and it will be able to see the zooplankton and catch that zooplankton. That is also another thing. So microalgae is very important. The green water and brown water system we make for the larva rearing. And early stages of fishes and invertebrates mostly feed on phytoplankton and zooplankton. Microalgae is being cultivated, it is used as many things nowadays. It is for production of ethanol, biogas, and cosmetics and nutraceuticals and spirulina and all. It is very common fertilizer, and animal feed also it is being used. The important microalgae which we use in marine hatchery is mostly these 4 species: Chlorella, Digrateria, Isochrysis, Nanochlorosis, and Pavlova. These are mostly flagellate or diatoms, which we use it in the hatchery. And we can cultivate this microalgae with nutrient medium. The main mediums which we are using it: Valnese medium, Gillard medium, F2, and F4 also is the Michaels medium. These 4 mediums are very much important in doing the culture. Just like plants only, we need nutrients, phosphate, trace elements, vitamins, and silicates in case of diatoms. So it is we need all these chemicals in required ratio and to make this medium, and we can use it for culturing this one. Actually, this microalgae generally we isolate it from the sea, or in freshwater also we can isolate freshwater forms and with the plankton net, and from that we'll concentrate it and dilute it in a series of dilutions. After that, it will be plated in the gastric plating. From that, there's a particular colonies is isolated and made it in a purified stock culture. The purified stock culture is very much essential for maintaining the microalgae. And CMFRA has got more than 80 species of microalgae in their collection, and it's the main supplier of microalgae for almost all hatcheries in India, especially prawn hatcheries, and it's a very, very big sector especially in the prawn shrimp farming. So for the hatcheries, we maintain a very pure stock culture in almost all CMFRA branches throughout India. So we are supplying for them. And this maintenance of stock culture, we need in the small test tubes, and it will be upgraded to the conical flask, then round bottom flask, then half-kin flask, 2 liter up to half-kin flask. We maintain in a septic condition air-conditioned room in a laboratory. After that, we go for a mass culture in the outside tanks, which in carboys and even tanks also we can do. In every algal culture, it has got a very small lag phase and exponential phase and stationary phase. And after some 40 days, there's a declining phase if you are not maintained properly or giving nourishment. And the initial lag phase, we use the microalgae, especially in the late exponential phase or stationary phase. So that is very much important. We need to start the algal culture and live feed culture much ahead of breeding program. So that is the first and foremost essential thing in a hatchery. After the broodstock is developed, we will get ready with the live feeds and go for breeding. Incidentally, if you are getting a breeding and we are trying, immediately we cannot go for live feed culture because these are stock culture is there, inoculums are there. So live feed culture, we should essentially start much earlier than the breeding programs. So this I explained. And there is batch culture, semi-continuous culture, and continuous culture are there. So the mass culture. Batch culture means we will be using that stock to produce a culture, and we are using the culture totally. And we'll for the next day we may have another batch. Like that in the batch culture, we'll continue. And semi-continuous culture, a portion of that one will be taken, and the nutrients and the clean seawater will be added. So it is a semi-continuous culture. And continuous culture also, it is something like that. It's a raceway type of system, and it will be continuously we are collecting regularly collecting and adding that kind of things. Algal culture, mostly outdoor culture, it is comparatively easy to maintain in carboy with the sterilized water. We inoculate it. Sterilization means either ozonization or chlorination and dechlorination is sufficient. No need for boiling and all. But for stock culture, we need the boiled seawater because we have to make sure that it is contamination free totally. So it is comparatively it's boiled and cooled. Water is being used for stock. And mass culture, we can use any type of water. Generally, we do it chlorination and dechlorination. That is better. And outdoor, any type of tanks, we can do it. Only thing, light is essential. We need to provide light, or even if the light is comparatively less, then we need to provide special tube lights for that one. And the mass culture tank, we can use the agriculture fertilizers like potassium nitrate, sodium orthophosphate, EDTA. And if you are going for diatom culture, then it needs silicates, also sodium silicate. So commercial fertilizers, with the use of commercial fertilizers, we can produce it in large tanks, because it is very much needed for feeding the rotifers. And advanced systems are there now. Nowadays, we can have totally controlled systems and raceways also. With there are sensors for that one. Even our institute also it is there. They maintain the fertilizer level and oxygen and carbon dioxide level in a particular way. Whenever it is required, automatic pumping will be there, and it will be being produced there. So initially, for all experimental purpose, we use the microalgae cultured in these carboys, rotifers. Rotifers are very easy to cultivate it. Actually, it is very important. One of the easiest live feed to cultivate is a rotifer. Rotifer can be cultured in the yeast. As principal also told that yeast is also comparatively important thing. Is rotifer inoculum, we need microalgae to culture. After that, we can culture the rotifer in the yeast system. Rotifers are very small in size, maybe around 300 to 400 micron only in the size, and it has got a two type of production, means the sexual production and asexual production is also there. So it multiply very fast, and it can have very high density, maybe 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 per liter per ml. Up to that level, we can cultivate it. Very high density, we can cultivate rotifer by feeding microalgae or yeast, and faster reproductive rate, and basically a filter feeder. It is totally harmless to fish larvae, so we can culture it very easily. But only one problem is with the rotifer. It is its nutritional value is comparatively very less, and we need enrichment. For enrichment, either we can use the microalgae. Some microalgae are very rich in fatty acids. So we can use microalgae for enrichment, and or we can use any other means external compounds are available nowadays. That is also basically made from the algae. We can use that product for enrichment. Rotifers is undoubtedly it is the most popular and easy live feed. It is 1 mm, 0.1 mm to 0.5 mm in size. Mostly these two species are popular, Brachiones plicatus and Brachiones rotundiformis. And they have very high reproduction rate. I told that it's 2,000 to 20,000 ml per the numbers per ml, that high density it can be cultivated. And in Brachiones plicatus and rotundiformis also three strains are still there: small type, super small type, and large type. That also we can particular culture it in, but it's not very stable. So essentially, we need to filter it with the sieve before feeding that one. And Brachiones rubens and Brachiones calciflorus is the freshwater forms that are being popularly used throughout the world for breeding the freshwater fishes and ornamental fishes. And basically feed, we are using Nanochloropsis, Isocrasis, and Florida. I told about the morphotypes of rotifer, super small type and small type. Typical first feed of hatchery is the rotifer, because especially if we go for salmon, trout, that kind of fishes, they have got a comparatively larger yolk sac, and its larvae is around 2 millimeter in size, 1 to 2 millimeters, so they can directly feed on rotifer. So it's up to cobia. Cobia also, it is comparatively bigger larvae. They will start feeding directly rotifer. I'm sorry, some sound is coming. It's okay. And mass culture, it's continuous harvest. It's the 10,000 to 20,000 numbers per ml. We can cultivate it. The only thing we need to feed constantly the live feed, means microalgae, and filter by using the plankton cloth. Actually, it's a bolting silk of different mesh sizes available. We make sieve with that one, and it is being used for filtering and feeding it in the fish larval tanks. It can be cultured using yeast, and enrichment is needed. That is the only problem. Selco and Orgreen as two important companies which is producing this enrichment for rotifer. Even Artemia also, it is need enrichment. And like algae, it is also can be cultivated in batch cultivation, semi-continuous culture system, and continuous system, and extensive culture techniques also is there for this rotifers. Batch, we are using the same batch completely for feeding that one. Semi-continuous, up to 1 month or 2 months we can continue by adding algae and seawater and regularly harvesting. And continuous, it can go for months together. Maybe it's different types of systems that also can be there. And extensive culture techniques, it's very common in normal hatcheries. They fertilize the tank with the microalgae, then they add that rotifer inoculum in that one. The rotifer will be almost ready within 4 or 5 days. And again, if they need a high density, we may need to add the microalgae for feed, because it is a filter feeding organism. With no time, it will finish the algae. So rotifer, they can be cultured in the FRP tanks, and we can pump the same water in the larval rearing tanks, especially in larger hatcheries. We are doing that one only. And Artemia, it is. I told that it can be stored like a dry feed, and whenever it is required, we can put it in seawater, and we give vigorous aeration. Within 18 to 20 hours, it will hatch, and this type of Nauplius will be coming out. So Artemia, it is bigger. The adult Artemia is like that. It is a primitive crustacean. It is a crustacean only, primitive, very primitive branch, Branchiopoda, and it is naturally available in the salt ponds. Especially when we are making that salt, when the seawater will be concentrated, and from that only we are making salt. So the highly saturated seawater, generally many organisms aren't available. But Artemia lives in that kind of environment where it's very high temperature and high salinity is there. So when still the condition whenever it is becoming worse, the Artemia will produce this kind of cyst. This is a chorion coated cyst, and we can be filter it and cleaned it and dried it, and we can keep it in containers for pretty long time, maybe up to 2 years. So it is just like we are buying any wheat or rice we can purchase in the market, and in the dried form, many companies are there producing that one. It's $1 billion business throughout the world. Only in some places only we can cultivate it in large scale. That is their advantage. Canada, US, and even India also, some places it is being produced. And this is Artemia X. It's very small in size, less than 1 millimeter in size. And it can be hatched. Whenever it is required, we can put it in receive water. Artemia hatching tank is generally the conical tanks like this, and light is being provided in the top, and vigorous aeration will be there. Artemia cyst will be there. So within 18 to 20 hours, it will be hatched. And one side it will be transparent. This larvae, all whenever it is light is there, it is phototropic. So if you show the light here, all larvae will be hatched. Larvae will come here. No place will come here. From that we can easily filter it. And even small scale aquarium people, they are doing this algal culture in small these pet bottles, and Artemia culture and rotifer culture also in small pet bottles with very minimum this thing. It is generally for small scale hatcheries they are doing it. Ornamental fish unit people are doing it. In large hatcheries they are using this Artemia hatching tanks especially for that. The copepods are the comparatively newer branch of live feed, and I think we are much ahead of the rest of the world. Even many developed countries, they don't have this kind of cultural facilities. So we for the last 5 to 10 years we have produced many technology for breeding of many fishes also. Mostly we developed Acacia and Paracalanids and Calanids groups only. Cephalopods and copepods, you must be knowing, it is a primitive, it's a type of crustaceans, which is planktonic crustacean. It can be compared to the insects of land. It is so diverse, just like insect, what way it is diverse in the land, the inside the water, that the insect role is being taken care by the copepods. So it is so diverse, around 25,000 species are identified, and so many varieties, and so diverse that copepods. It is there in the deepest ocean to any small freshwater body, it is there. So it is so diverse and so dynamic, and it's formed one of the important live food organism naturally available. So we need that special type of organisms for cultivating some species which no other live feed will be suitable. So we have developed some 14 species culture techniques: Acacia southwelli and Parvocalanus casirostris, Bestiolina similis, Divivitana. These are very small nuclear stages, around 45 to 75 micron in length, and width is coming around 20 to 30 micron only in the initial phase. I told that some fishes have got a very large yolk sac, and this is a large yolk sac. And some fishes, the first damsel larvae and the grouper larvae. Grouper means in Kalava in Malayalam, and snappers, Velamine, that kind of fishes. Their larvae are very small with a very small yolk sac, and mouth size is also very small. It is less than 1 millimeter in size. This is around 2 millimeter, 3 millimeter it is coming, and cobia larvae is still cobia and this trout, salmon. These larvae are comparatively bigger size, 0.5 mm it will be there. Means 5 mm, up to 5 mm it is there, and then will hatch larvae. So they can feed directly on this rotifers. But this larvae we need to have the copepods. The copepods also we collected from the plankton sample, and we go for a continuous purification. And continuous purification and make the stock culture, and pure stock cultures are being maintained. From that, we are developing the mass scale culture. Unlike rotifer or microalgae, we can keep in very small test tubes or even very small containers in the stock culture. But essentially, copepod we need to keep around some 40 liter, 50 liter tanks for stock culture. That is the only difference. And mainly the system it is similar way only. I only think the pure isolated culture is very much essential. The calanoids and cyclopoids can multiply only up to 5,000 to 6,000 numbers per liter. Essentially, we need large containers, 5 to 10 tons capacity tanks, because with the microalgae, then only we can run a complete hatchery with the copepods. And herpetocoid can reach higher density. Among the copepods, calanoids, cyclopoids, and herpetocoids, 3 groups are there. These are being mostly used for this live feed. And calanoids are comparatively, it can distribute in the water column. But cyclopoids also, it is comparatively okay to distribute in the water column. But herpetocoids, they prefer the benthic, and they are hiding type. So though we can produce herpetocoids in large scale, but whenever we are adding to the larval rearing tank, it will hide in the bottom or some corners. So it is not available with the fish larvae. That is the problem. So calanoids are very much essential for feeding the fish larvae. And artificial feed, only we can use it for culturing this herpetocoids only. But calanoids and cyclopoids, they need live feed, especially microalgae for feeding. This nuclear stages and other stages. These are copepods eggs. Like Artemia, some copepods can produce some chorion coated different, some are stable eggs. But it's not, it is a lot of research is being done in that way, but till now it is not, nobody has developed a system like Artemia where we can keep dried copepod eggs for larval rearing. This is a paracalanid eggs only. It is around 40 micron, 30 micron only in size. This is Acarcia eggs. This is generally cyclopoid species eggs. Acarcia is very much important. Only Acarcia species, they are producing resting eggs. And copepod, one difficult thing is that it has got a very series of nuclear stages, and 6 nuclear stages and 5 copepoid stages, and sexes are separate, male and female, it is separate is there. So it takes around 5 to 10 days for completing one life cycle. So naturally, we cannot culture copepod within 10 days period, but we can produce rotifer with 4 to 10 days in large scale. But copepods, we have to plan at least 1 month ahead, so that then only we may have the enough inoculum for enough large scale production for feeding the fish larvae. This is very typical. It has got 6 nuclear stages and 5 copepod stages, and every stage it will be feeding, and molting also will be there. And I told you that sieves are being prepared using the coupling, PVC pipe coupling. We can paste it with araldite here, different types of micron size. From that we can do it. This copepod stock culture can be stored like this in buckets and other things. And mass culture, we can do it in large tanks, especially round tanks are better. And whenever once in 2 days or 3 days, we need to filter out this bottom fecal matter and dead organisms if it is there, and to filter it out. And through that, eggs also will be coming out. We can keep that one in buckets like this. And the very next day, all nucleus will be hatched, and it will be nuclear soup here. So we can filter it, and we can directly use it for feeding also, or we can give it back to the tank for developing mass culture. This is Acarcia southwelli. It is one of the important species used in hatchery, and it's larval stages, 6 nuclear stages and copepod stages. And one advantage is that all these Nauplius stages, Nauplius 1, 2, 3, it will be increasing in size. So when the fish larvae is becoming bigger and bigger, we can feed according to its mouth size. We can find out the mouth size and which is the required size, we can use it. Up to 1 mm size, we can use the copepods. And Pseudodytum sericodatus is another species which is being used. Parvocalanus crasseros is the most important species. It is being used throughout the world, and the Nauplius stage is very small, very feeble, and very nutritious food only. And it is highly prolific. It can lay more than 100 eggs a day. So it is comparatively with the 15 to 20 days, we can make a big 5-ton tank with the soup of this species. And Bestiola similis is also another paracalanate. It's also same. We can make a very large scale for this one. Opocyclus cimiferae, it is a new species we are being cultivated. It's comparatively bigger in size and is being used for ornamental fish hatcheries. Small scale culture can be done. In beakers also it can be cultured. That is its advantage. And Dioethon oculata is another prolific species. It is also can be cultured in a 1 liter beaker for small scale. Dioethona, it's another cyclopod copepod. It can also cultivated. Dioethona also same. Euterpina acutifrons is the only herpeticode copepod we are promoting it. This can be cultured in a small container. We can feed artificial feed, especially rice bran and all. It can be cultivated in the rice bran. And copepod eggs can be directly harvested from the bottom, and we can keep it in this kind of bucket. And next day it will be hatched. It will be filled with all Nauplius stages, and we can use it. And second one, this modified Artemia hatching tanks can also be used for continuously harvesting the copepod Nauplius stages. This bottom will be fixing with the micron mesh, and the eggs will be collected at the bottom, and it will be airlifted like this, and it will be collected in this collecting chamber. That is around 20 million Naupliae can be produced in a 1,000 liter capacity, 100 liter capacity of this tank. And grouper hatchery, we have this large scale copepod culture unit for making grouper seeds, grouper and snapper seeds, especially in Visakhapatnam Center and Karwar Center, they are doing snapper and grouper breeding. And some problems will be there about ciliates and all, but if you are maintaining somewhat cleanliness, it can be overcome. We can overcome. Only thing we need to examine whether the ciliate count is increasing. And if it is much increasing, then we can empty the tank and go for a continuous run of water in a small tank, so that the ciliates will be washed off. Then again, the copepods can be filtered and start reculture. And the fatty acid profile, it is the most nutritious live feed. There is no need for any enrichment. And the fish larvae, if we take one or two Nauplius also, it will be more healthy. We can see it. Even if it is a bigger larvae also, we can feed it with the copepods. Especially the DHA content is very high in copepods. And we compared with Artemia or Rotifer, it is very, very less. It's a 0.1, here it is 18.6, 20, like that only. And EPA content is also comparatively very high. And DHA by EPA ratio, that indicates the ideal suitability of a live feed. And it should be above 1. Copepods, it is always above 6, 7, like that. And Artemia and Rotifer, they are very less. So both, it required enrichment. Enrichment mediums are very costly also in compared with this. When we done several comparative trials with some, especially these seahorses and some ornamental fishes like clownfishes, they may not require copepod. But when we can culture it with Rotifer and Artemia, whether the same age group, you can see the difference in size when we fed with the copepods and fed with Artemia and Rotifers. Same way, the 8th-day old larvae of Amphipteron fronatus, which we fed with Rotifer and Artemia, it was like this, and see the size, color, everything is so changed when we use copepods. For each species, we may have to develop a larval rearing protocols. Then only we can use it. First, we will go for a breeding trial. From that, we will refine it. What is the requirement of microalgae? What is the requirement of live feed? And when that live feed can be shifted? Because whenever it is easy to cultivate with rotifers, so some cases we can replace the coffee pot from the initial phase and we can use it. So this kind of chart we are developed for all species. So we can follow this chart for the live feed feeding protocol. This microalgae, it is essential up to some 15-20 days green water system for making green water system. And this the very second day on first day onwards, we need to add copepod nopally up to 8th day copepodite. This is for damsels. Damsel feed only mainly we can very poor survival. If you use copepod only copepod, then we can get better survival. So damsel we are maintained exclusively up to 25 days. We have to do metamorphosis with the copepods, and then from Artemia slowly. After that, we can shift to artificial diet around 40 to 45 days only. Up to that level we need. This is a feeding protocol for a Siganus fish. Siganus means the rabbit fishes. So for a few days only we used copepod no place. Then we shifted to rotifer. We can shift to rotifer and then Artemia. Like that, for each species we need to develop larval area protocols. For copepods are mainly used in groupers, nappers, Indian pompano, silver pompano, emperor fishes, rabbit fishes, breams, anthias, and ornamental fishes like anthias, gobies, damsels, MCMFR hatchery, especially Mandapam, Visakhapatnam, Kalvar, and Vivignam. And few private hatcheries, ornamental fish hatcheries there in Kerala and Karnataka also using it. And we have published a book on this culture techniques of marine copepods that can be downloaded from the CMFRA or in ResearchGate. It's freely available. So this is all about the live feeds in the marine side. Actually, hello.
Santosh sir,
Yeah.
it's very interesting talk.
Okay, thank you very much for.
I think the production of live feeds for fish fries is a different business, not just like making noodles for humans. Right?
Actually,
I have a question for you.
yeah.
Could you explain the addition of EDTA to the culture media or the?
Actually, the cells, EDTA will help cells to separate. Otherwise, there will be a flocculation. Means we require EDTA to make that algal culture separate in a equal density. Otherwise, if EDTA is not there in the medium, the algae will try to settle down at the bottom. So EDTA is being used for that purpose only.
Thank you.
Okay.
There are some questions in the Q&A box. Shall I read it?
Yeah, actually, one second.
We can discuss only relevant questions.
Okay, no problem. But let me.
It's on the lower panel, right to participants.
I can stop sharing. Okay, stop sharing. Okay, no, okay. Chat box, it is there, huh?
Yeah, and not chat box, Q&A box.
Okay, one second.
Right to the participants.
Thank you very much for patiently listening, and thank you for giving me a chance to present it. Okay, yeah. One question. Is it possible to rear the live feed culture, disease-based strains in large scale? Which feed I will be more nutritive? Either it is live feed or pellet feed, Dr. R. Ramakrishnan. So actually, is it possible to rear live feed culture disease-free strains? Yes, we need to have a disease-free inoculum. That is very much essential. If it is algae, we need to maintain inside a closed room with the sterile condition. Otherwise, bacterial infection will be there in that one. we will not get a large scale production. So inoculum will be, we should be this free. But in the large scale culture, often crashes will be there. That is true. If it is not properly maintained, or if it is totally exposed to outside weather, sometimes it may crash. But if, in the initial phase, it will grow. And if it is in the large scale outdoor culture, they will not wait for much time. They will use it for a complete batch culture. They will do the inoculum, and within 3 to 5 days, the culture will be ready to harvest. If we keep for more time, then there is a chance for infection will be there. Among the microalgae, nutritionally, it is very much different, especially Pavlova, Dicrateria, and this Isochrysis. They are very, very nutritious. But Nanochloropsis and Chlorella, they are not that much nutritious. So that is the difference. Okay, thank you. And which feed it will be more nutritive, either live feed or pellet? Pellet feed is not at all nutritive, and we cannot compare with mother's milk with artificial feed, Cerelac. That is the difference. So live feed is more important. So the next one, Bindu L. Larviculture of fishes is the major bottleneck in the ornamental fishes culture. Please suggest a cheaper, simple way to produce enough live feed in the backyard ornamental fish culture system. Actually, in the freshwater fishes, essentially we need to go for a large-scale culture of rotifers by using Chlorella. Chlorella freshwater strains are there. Even CMFRI is maintaining the Chlorella freshwater strain. With very minimum facilities, we can culture Chlorella. With that Chlorella and yeast, we can make a rotifer culture, and we can do it in the large scale production. And most of the time, I have seen that ornamental fish farmers, they are not keeping live feed in the higher density. In marine fishes, if we keep 1 to 2 numbers per ml, that much density minimum we have to maintain in the initial phase. We may need to waste most of the live feed will be wasted there. But the thing is that if you maintain that kind of a density, then only the larvae will get a chance to eat 1 or 2, because the vision is very, very less, and mouth size is very small, and these are live feeds will be actively swimming. So we need to maintain the higher density. And there are paramecium culture, infusaria, moina, all different types of culture are there for freshwater. And marine side, if you are going for ornamental fishes, we need to have a stock culture of rotifer and copyboard and artemia. These 3 species is essential, especially for breeding damsels and gobies and other fishes. And then which live feed culture, Ramakrishnan? Which live feed culture I'll be easily either marine or freshwater? How long we can be able to preserve the live feeds under aseptic conditions? Dr. Ramakrishnan. Actually, live feed culture, it's easy in freshwater only. In marine side, we need to have very much clean water, sterilized water is essential. And freshwater, we have more choice, but less risk also, because freshwater fishes, they're habituated, fish larvae, they're habituated thriving in ammonia water and other things. The marine fish, marine condition, especially when the pH is very higher side, especially above 8 to 8.5 like that, during normal seawater pH, there the ammonia will be highly toxic. And freshwater, generally it will be around 7 to 6.5 to 7.5 in range. That condition, ammonia level will become not toxic to animals. So the pH level higher means we need very, very clean water for feeding the marine fishes. For the live feed also, it is same. It is easy for freshwater. And marine fishes, actually, it is very much standardized practices are there for live feed culture, because it is very much essential. Freshwater fishes, in some fishes, because of these carps, koi carp, goldfishes and all, we can directly feed in the pond water. So it's not that much developed. Next question. why the copypod density in first feeding is so low, 3 to it is very high comparatively, 2 to 3 individuals per ml, and we recommend the rotifer, okay, comparatively higher. Okay, that is true. Rotifer density is higher, we can keep it because copypods, it is very difficult to produce it in large scale compared to rotifers. That is one of the reason. And with several larva rearing techniques, in most of the larvae, especially in damsels and ciganas, we standardized it. We need to use only up to 2 to 3 individuals. That's the difference. If we eat, if the fish larvae eat some 5 to 10 rotifers also, in the same condition, if they can get one nucleus, that nutrition will be balanced more in that one nucleus. That is one of the reasons. And second thing is that the copypods, their particularly movement is different. It will stop and sink like that. It's a type of jerky movement. So the fish larvae can easily identify it and catch it. But rotifer, it is that it is a cruising type of movement. So the fish larvae will be very difficult to find the prey to catch it, especially the grouper larvae, damsel larvae, and breams larvae. Their vision is very, very weak. The eyes are not at all developed. It will be developed only around 10 days period, but it is started feeding. It should start feeding from the second day onwards. The intestine also is very less, so it contains some digestive enzymes. The copypod nucleus will have all these things. Internal enzymes are there, will assist for feeding. And second thing is that its particular movement, copypod movement, is like it will attract the fish larvae because it's a natural pair. Both are evolved. The fish larvae also evolved and copypod also evolved in a particular system that they should feed on that particular copypod. Especially grouper and all, essentially at least it should take a few nuclei, then only it will survive. So we need to have a lesser number. Rotifer, we need to have more number. That is exactly correct, sir. Okay. How much is the cost of inoculum culture of live feeds? Especially for the microalgae and all, it is around 150, 200 like that, only for 100 ml, 200 ml like that. It varies in different cultures. Generally, it is like that only in CMFRA, it is selling price, the culture. And other live feeds also it is same, 100 ml, 200 ml, it is few hundred rupees only. Generally, it is we are taking this as a token because it is we are also supporting private sector to promote it. But if you purchase it from outside, especially from some companies and from Amazon or some other places, then it will be a few thousands for a small bottle. It will be. CMFRA, it is comparatively 100 rupees, 50 rupees like that only. Kindly explain species natural identified as a hybrid. Sorry, it is naturally Apocyclops. It is Apocyclops CMFRA. It's naturally isolated from the Karwar region, Karwar waters. It is marine only, but we can culture it in freshwater also. It's not a hybrid. It is a new species only from the Apocyclops. Around 10 species are there in the Apocyclops. Apocyclops ryluri, Dengisicus. Already it is popular in the ornamental fish culture sector in Europe and America. Not this species. They have different species, Apocyclops. It's comparatively easy. We can do it in a very small 50 ml, 100 ml beaker also, this culture Apocyclops. But only thing, it cannot be used for feeding the snapper or grouper or damsel larvae. It can be used for feeding the clownfish larvae because it need it is around 100 micron plus size. So we can replace rotifer with that. Why copypod density cannot be high more than 10 20 numbers for feeding of larvae? Yeah, that I explained, Rekha, because we need not, because that particular movement, it's already proved. Many publications are there in that one that will attract the fish larvae. 1 to 2 numbers per ml is sufficient. One thing, and second thing is that we don't require to waste that much of copypod larvae in that one. That is proved. 1 to 2 ml, 1 to 2 numbers per ml is sufficient. Feed its solutions. Sorry, it was excellent. Can be placed at the mesh size, which is filters using separating different stages of copy pods. Yes, we actually the problem is with the copy pods. Its size may be around 200 micron or 500 micron, but the width will be small, maybe 70 micron, 80 micron. For that is why when we need to filter the adult also, sometimes we may need 100 micron filter. For larval stages, invariably we need 20 micron filter for feeding that one, because less than 20, higher than ever, if we use around 30 micron, we may not get the nuclear stages of this Parvocalanus, Bestiolina, and it depends on the species. For each species, we standardized that sieve size. Because for nuclear stages, we can use, first we can filter it through 20 micron. So it will all will be collected at adult and larval forms will be there. If we need exclusively nuclear stages, then we filter this one with the upper side with the 50 micron or 40 micron and lower side with the 20 micron. What is retained in the 20 micron filter, it will be all nuclear stages. Like that, we can use two filters, simultaneous filtration, two filters. So the middle one will be with exclusively with the copypod nucleus. Like that, it is around the lower one should be 20 micron size only, most of the cases. But in Timora turbinata and Apocyclops and all, we can use comparatively bigger one, 50 micron size for the lower one, and 200 micron or 300 micron size for filtering the adult. It can be used. Alternative Artemia. So can you prefer an alternative for Artemia and freshwater flies? Artemia is the easiest thing to cultivate it. But if you don't want to invest in that Artemia, then you can go for a rotifer. For a rotifer, you can culture it, and we can enrich the rotifer with this chlorella. You can culture with inoculum with the rotifer, this chlorella, and do it in the mass scale with yeast. Yeast is comparatively easy. We can use it in the large scale production. From that, before feeding that one, you can filter that one, and again you put it in a tank containing the chlorella or even any other microalgae which is nutritious. So after that we can feed it, or even with an enrichment media. Enrichment media is also costly. That is what I was advising you. But it is very easy. Actually, I am surprised to see why the ornamental fish hatchery people are not doing this. It can replace the Artemia totally, because Artemia is very costly. One small container containing around 400 gram, it will be costing around 4,000, 5,000 rupees, good quality one. So it is very, very costly. We can do it easily. We can replace with the rotifer. For freshwater especially. For marine it will be difficult, but freshwater it is easy.
സാർ ഒരു ചോദ്യം, ഈ കോപ്പിപ്പോഡിന്റെ ആർട്ടിമിയുടെയും ഒരു കോസ്റ്റ് ബെനിഫിറ്റ് എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഇക്കണോമിക് ഇവാലുവേഷൻ സാർ നടത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ടോ? കാരണം നമ്മൾ ഒരുപാട് ബഡിങ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരുപാട് ഫിഷ് കൾച്ചറിസ്റ്റുകളുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ അവർക്ക് ഈ കോപ്പിപ്പോഡ് ആർട്ടിമിയക്ക് ഒരു ആൾട്ടർനേറ്റീവ് ആയിട്ട് സാറിന് പറയാൻ പറ്റുമോ ഈ കോസ്റ്റിന്റെ കാര്യത്തിൽ?
അതിന്റെ ഒരു ബുക്കിൽ ഒരു ചാപ്റ്റർ ഉണ്ട് ഇതിന് മാത്രമായിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇതിന്റെ കമ്പയർ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട് ഒരു കോപ്പിപ്പോഡ് കൾച്ചർ സിസ്റ്റം.
ഒന്ന് തൽക്കാലം ഈ ഒരു ഓഡിയൻസിന് വേണ്ടി ഒന്ന് ജസ്റ്റ് ഒന്ന് ബ്രീഫ് ആയിട്ട് പറയാം.
ഓക്കെ, ആക്ച്വലി നമുക്ക് നമ്മൾ ഒരു നല്ല ട്രെയിനിങ്ങിന് ആവശ്യമുണ്ട് കോപ്പിപ്പോഡ് കൾച്ചറിന്. അതാണ് അതിന്റെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയ ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ടി. നമ്മൾ പ്രോപ്പർ ട്രെയിനിങ് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് ആർട്ടിമിയ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിനെക്കാട്ടി ചീപ്പായിട്ട് കോപ്പിപ്പോഡ് കൾച്ചർ ചെയ്യാം. അതിനകത്ത് നമ്മൾ നന്നായിട്ട് എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് നോട്ട് ഈസി. നമുക്ക് അത് നമ്മൾ വർക്ക് ചെയ്ത് തന്നെ ട്രെയിനിങ് കിട്ടണം. കാര്യം അതിനകത്ത് ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ, സീലിയേറ്റ് കൂടിയാൽ ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ, അതെങ്ങനെ ഓവർകം ചെയ്യണം എന്നുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ നോക്കണം.
പ്രോസസ് പ്രോപ്പർ ആയിട്ട് ട്രെയിനിങ് കൂടെ കിട്ടണം.
ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് വെരി ചീപ്പ്, വെരി ചീപ്പ്.
വളരെ കൂടുതലാണ്.
ആർട്ടിമിയയുടെ ഭയങ്കര കോസ്റ്റ് ആണ്. പക്ഷെ ത്രൂ ഔട്ട് വേൾഡ് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് നോട്ട്, ഇതൊരു അക്സെപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല. കാര്യം അവരാരും ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരു രാജ്യത്തും 1 or 2 സ്പീഷീസിന്റെ മേളിൽ കോപ്പിപ്പോഡ് അവർക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റിയിട്ടില്ല. ഫസ്റ്റ് ടൈം നമ്മളാണ് വളരെ ഈസി ആയിട്ട് കോപ്പി പോഡ് കൾച്ചർ ചെയ്യാൻ ആ ടെക്നിക്ക് ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്തതും ഇത്ര എക്സ്റ്റെൻസീവ് ആയിട്ട് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. കഴിഞ്ഞ ഒരു 5 വർഷം കൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ ഒരു ഫിഷ് ബ്രീഡിംഗ് പോലും മിസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല. അത്
കാരണം ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു സാർ പറഞ്ഞ ന്യൂട്രീഷണൽ പാരാമീറ്റേഴ്സ് ശരിക്കും വളരെ എക്സലന്റ് ആയിട്ടാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത്.
എക്സലന്റ് ആണ്. അതായത് ശരിയാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്, ഒരു നോപ്ലിയസ് എങ്കിലും തിന്നിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ആ ലാർവ ചത്തു പോകത്തില്ല.
അതെ 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 അതെ.
അത്
ആ ഒരു ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മുടെ ഈ ഒരു മേഖലയിലേക്ക് ഒരു അവയർനെസ് എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ എത്തിയാൽ, ഒപ്പം ഈ ട്രെയിനിങ് കൂടെ കിട്ടിയാൽ, ശ്രീമുഖറയ്ക്ക് ടെക്നിക്കലായിട്ട് കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു ട്രെയിനിങ് കൂടെ കിട്ടി കഴിഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ വളരെ ഒരു നല്ല റെവല്യൂഷൻ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പറ്റും.
ഒരു വലിയ പ്രോജക്റ്റ് നമ്മൾ പ്ലാൻ ചെയ്ത് സപ്പോർട്ടിന് വേണ്ടി അയച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷെ അത് വളരെ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ കാരണം, അതായത് കാര്യമായിട്ട് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ട്രെയിനിങ് ഇന്ത്യയിലെ എല്ലാ ഹാച്ചറി, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് പ്രോൺ ഹാച്ചറി പോലും അത് റീപ്ലേസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. കൊക്കോട് കൊടുത്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പ്രോണിന്റെ ലാർവയുടെ പീലിന്റെ ഒക്കെ സൈസും നല്ലതായിരിക്കും, കളറും നല്ലതായിരിക്കും. അപ്പൊ അതിനുവേണ്ടി നമ്മൾ വളരെ ഒരു വലിയ പ്രോജക്ട് സബ്മിറ്റ് ചെയ്തു. പക്ഷെ അവർ NFDB ആദ്യം സാങ്ഷൻ ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല അത്. പക്ഷെ പിന്നെ അവർ മോഡിഫൈ ചെയ്ത് സബ്മിറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്, നമ്മൾ സബ്മിറ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ ഈ പ്രോബ്ലം എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇപ്പൊ നമുക്ക് നിർത്തി ട്രെയിനിങ് നടത്താൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. അപ്പൊ അതാണ് അത് എക്സ്ക്ലൂസീവ്ലി ഫോർ ട്രെയിനിങ് ആണ്. നമ്മൾ ആൾക്കാരെ ട്രെയിനിങ് ആണ്. അത് ഹാൻഡിൽ ചെയ്യുന്ന ട്രെയിനിങ്ങും അതിന്റെ പ്രോബ്ലംസും കണ്ടു തന്നെ പഠിച്ചാലേ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് അതിനകത്ത് കുറച്ച് മൈക്രോസ്കോപ്പിക് ടെക്നിക്സ് ഉണ്ട്. There are some microscopic techniques for that one, for isolation and to identification which are the ciliate, what is the problem, whether the health condition of that nucleus is good or bad.
Thank you.
Parvocalanus, okay, it can overcome rotifer in the culture. നമ്മൾ അങ്ങനെ നമ്മുടെ റിസർച്ച് നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. 2-3 സ്പീഷീസ് നമുക്ക് അങ്ങനെ കിട്ടിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ബെസ്റ്റോലിനെയൊക്കെ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എ കോ കൾച്ചർ, ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ബി ഡോമിനേറ്റിംഗ് റോട്ടിഫർ ഇവൻ. ഓക്കെ,
അതിനകത്ത് എൻറിച്ച്മെന്റ് ആവശ്യമില്ല എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് തന്നെ വളരെ ഒരു എക്കണോമിക് ബെനിഫിറ്റ് ആണ് അതിനകത്ത് കിട്ടുന്നത്. കാരണം ഒരുപാട് പണം ആൾക്കാർ ചെലവാക്കുന്നുണ്ട് എൻറിച്ച്മെന്റ് മീഡിയം ആഡ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട്. ഓക്കെ, താങ്ക് യു വെരി മച്ച്.
നെക്സ്റ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ. Possible to take water. Okay, Artemia പറഞ്ഞു. Is it possible to take sample water from pond to introduce a seed in my fish tank? Support fish with the live feed. Okay, if nothing is available, we can. It is a risk. Only thing, the problem is that when we take out the pure culture, then the predatory organisms won't develop. Previously, people were using that wild collected plankton for feeding that fishes. So wild collectors and predatory planktons also, predatory copepods are there, parasitic copepods are there, and the copepods and other organ or larvae, this live feeds with trematode or nematode infection. I mean, intermediate host also is there. So naturally it is not ideal, but but if you happen to get a breeding and there is nothing to give, then you can give easily. We can filter out the pond water and you can introduce that pond water in the tank and give some fertilizer or some minimum very less quantity fertilizer, so that the water quality won't change, so that the algae will flourish and the plankton will flourish, and at least you will get some larvae survival. It can be possible. Then speak about Daphnia culture. We tried in small aquarium setup and it's not stable for long time. Actually, our problem with a little bit handicapped about this Daphnia, because we are mostly in the marine side. We are culturing, so direct I cannot answer much direct details about this one. But okay, it is comparatively easy. This Daphnia or Moina, it can be cultured with, if you have a microalgal culture, any species of microalgal culture. Chlorella is comparatively very easy. So if you have that chlorella culture with fertilizer or even with the small nutrients like groundnut oil cake soup, or even the cow dung washings also. With that, you can culture the muscale larvae, algal culture, that we can use it for Daphnia or Moina culture. This microalgae is very much essential, very much ideal, and it can be cultured in East also. I heard like that, but I have not tried this Moina culture in the East. but it can be cultured. I heard like that. It can be, people are doing that one. And only thing, the easiest way to have any live feed culture is that we please make an algal culture. Especially this chlorella is very hardy and very dominating species. So we can use it in the freshwater side and make a freshwater algal culture. With that, you try Artemia or Daphnia or Moina, nothing will happen. All will survive. I'm sure it will be surviving. Copypod safe feed for fishes is live feed. Sometimes have the parasites. Yeah, that is true. There is a problem with intermediate host channel, but in copypods, we are using it inoculum produced in the hatchery, completely in the hatchery. We are not using the wild copypods. So nothing will be there. We know the species. It is Acarcia, it is Paracalanus, Parocalanus, Bestulina. What is the genus and species? And it is completely produced artificially. No, nothing. It has never contact with any water outside. So nothing will be there. It is very, very safe. This is the real problem with when we feed. We may get some survival if we popularly people are using the wild collected plankton for feeding the this grouper larvae earlier time. But that is the problem was there with a lot of parasites will be introduced and intermediate host will be exactly this is the problem. But we are recommending the hatchery production of people. Can river water be used for microalgae culture? Yes, freshwater it can be used. Only thing you can put a little bit of chlorine. That this normal swimming pool we are using that chlorine powder. We can use that little bit chlorine powder for sterilization. After that, we can dechlorinate it with giving aeration, and also we can dechlorinate it with this sodium thiosulfate. A pinch of sodium thiosulfate will be sufficient. The water will be without chlorine. So we can use culture for microalgae. In marine side, we are also using that one for the mass culture. We cannot sterilize the water with any other condition. Of course, ozone is comparatively easy, but this is very much cheap because 1 kg it will be costing around a few hundreds only, maybe 1,000 rupees only for this normal chlorine thing which is being used for swimming pools, and with one pinch we can sterilize in one 5-ton tank. It is very easy. With that we can add fertilizer and culture with microalgae. It will be completely sterilized. And ciliates are also using a fish larval feed. Any experience on that one? Yes, ciliates we can use it. Especially this paramecium and marine side also many ciliates are there. We try, but it is nutritionally not up to the mark. Only in emergency cases, if nothing is available, you can culture ciliate. But its nutritional content is uncomparable with the Copepod naupliae. So better if we can culture Copepod naupliae or rotifer with enrichment media, that will be better than ciliate. Ciliate culture is comparatively difficult than paramecium is okay, easy in the freshwater side. In marine side, it is comparatively difficult. We need to have a good algae source for the feed. Where can we do Daphnia culture in Kerala? Actually, Daphnia is comparatively less available in Kerala. I don't know many people, but Moina culture, Moina is also equally good and it is comparatively smaller than Daphnia. So better go for Moina culture. Moina can be easily collected from the wild also, and it can be purchased from many people. It is both parthenogenetical and sexual reproduction is there, so it will grow very fast. In any fertilized, well-fertilized pond, natural pond, if you filter the plankton sample, and if you observe under microscope, you can see Moina. It is around 0.5 millimeter or 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter or 2 millimeter in size. So naturally, you can pick this Moina by using a dropper, small dropper, and we can purify it, wash it 2-3 times, and you can start inoculum. If you can separate only 2-3 also, then also you can have an easy culture of Moina. And it is so difficult, then you can pick with the forceps also, because it contains some embryos. It will be directly released in that one. Moina will come. If it is a good algal culture, the moina will naturally come. So it is comparatively easy for moina culture. The culture inoculum is available in the market, maybe even in Amazon, the kind of sites also it is available. And many hatcheries, many ornamental fish farmers, they have the culture. That also you can take, and from the pond water also you can directly start your own culture. Can college students make use of CMFR labs to project work on micro? Yes, you all are welcome, because two way it is there. One, it is in our site, it is there. Specific requirement. You for if it is a 1 month, you may have to give some fee for that one, for registration, if you need any certificate. Otherwise, if any college students, whatnot, anybody can come and learn. If don't require any certificate or formal this thing, we are encouraging people, even farmers, to come and stay with us for a few days and learn the techniques from there, how to breed the fish and how to rear the larva rearing. And so at a time we can encourage 4 or 5 people. Not in this COVID period. Otherwise, many students or even many farmers, they came and they stay there with us for 1 month or 2 months without any. We are not charging them, and they got better jobs in Gulf countries and other countries with our own experience in algal culture and other dry field culture and fish breeding. We are regularly giving this kind of training throughout in all CMFRA institute, especially we are giving. Students can come and get their training. If they specifically need a certificate training for 1 month, 2 month project work or 6 month project work, specific fee, it is there in the website, it is there. You can apply and directly they will in which center, Vishakhapatnam center, Mandapam, Thoothukudi, where it is. I mean, your preference also you can mention it. They will sanction it, and after that they will mark that particular application to us. You can, many students are doing project work from the college, many colleges, from MG college, from many other aquatic biology also people comes. They can use our lab. We are all in the government sector only, for working for people only. So we encourage any people, any person, students, layman, farmer, hatchery people. Regularly we are giving training. In addition to that, if they really want to learn something, they can come and work in the hatchery with people and learn the things. Thank you. Thank you. I think I have answered all.
Yeah, question and answer session is over.
Okay.
And Santosh, we can move into the next session. Note of thanks.
Yeah. Before that, I should thank Sunil Kumar, sir, principal, and organizers, especially Dr. Disha, Dr. Hari, Dr. Shija, and all. These are my junior, senior colleagues only. So happy to share a session with all of you. And I'm sorry, it is a too specialized area. Anyway, some people will be hitting. I could see the other talks are much general, so maybe it can cater a vast session of people. But this can be really a narrow session. But any person can come and do the work with us. No problem. We have starting from fishery up to hatchery side. It is there in all CMFRA centers. Get trained in all aspects, whether it is data collection or the microbiology or biotechnology work. You are most welcome. No problem for that one. Our director is very helping person for that one. So thank you for the organizers of Agora. It's a very good program. I really surprised to see you organize so many and utilize this opportunity, this especially lockdown and other.
Santosh Chetan is fed up with my SMS.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I'm inviting Dr. Shija VU, Assistant Professor of Zoology, Department of Zoology, SN College, Kollam, for the formal out of thanks.
Thank you, Jisha teacher. Thank you very much, sir, for this very interesting and informative talk on food for fish breeding. Let me take this opportunity to thank Dr. B. Santosh, sir, on behalf of Team Agora. We are very grateful to you, sir, for sharing details about the importance of live feed, common live food organisms, and a detailed account of its mass culture in a very simple and interesting way. Thank you, sir. I wish to thank our